dear friends. Welcome to the final episode of season 2 Breaking Stereotypes on the Human Weave podcast. I'm your host, Rosh, and with me is Yash. Today's episode is weaving it together, a gentle and powerful close to a season that's been nothing short of transformative.
As we wrap up this incredible season, we want to pause, to reflect, to breathe, and to truly feel the journey we have been on. Through Breaking Stereotypes, we have held space for raw truths, courageous voices, and the invisible threads that binds us as human beings. In this finale, we are revisiting the heartbeats of every episode, piecing together the sparks of wisdom each guest left behind.
Reflection is such a vital part of growth, especially when we walk the path of awareness, healing, and spiritual evolution. When we slow down, we create space to look inward, to truly understand what has shaped us, and to discover the paths that are ready to lead us forward. So let's take this time to weave together the lessons, the moments, and the connections that have made the season so meaningful. So I would like to start by talking about Amanda Town's episode that was Breaking the Mold. Yash, would you like to start on what were your thoughts on that episode?
It was incredible speaking to Amanda on this topic. The way she dissected the topic was so beautiful, and it was very simple, where everybody can understand, because every time there is a technical word that comes up, it is somehow boxed as well. So, how to educate on how we put people into boxes, that was something very meaningful to start our conversation about breaking stereotypes.
Yeah. I love the way she brought in simply in two words, that stereotypes are mental shortcuts. It is something that reflected through all the episodes that we did afterwards, also. I love the way that Amanda brought these concepts with a lot of clarity, and I think that episode was very meaningful. I think it was the right choice to start with that episode, because it kind of broke down the concepts of stereotypes and how they formed, like you said, the labels that we give, uh, and we are not even aware of how we get into a stereotype, right?
Yeah.
That was really interesting to break down for our listeners, I feel.
Yeah, like you said, the mental shortcuts. It's like the technical algorithm coding. The more we do it, we associate and assume it. Okay, this equates this. And that probably can be or cannot be. We don't even pause to reflect back. Is it really true or is it not? That comparison is itself a scary aspect in a very day to day life, because you can assume wrong things also, which can be labeled into a stereotype later.
Yeah. And it was amazing how she brought in stereotypes are also something that people get comfortable with. And then we talked about how it's safer to stay in that comfort. And then we don't want to kind of break through that, because there is fear that stops us, fear of not being liked by others, fear of being judged, and the need that we have, which is a very instinctive need, that we don't really rock the boat, and we are part of a larger group or a community. That was a very interesting point. I think most people kind of stay in the boxes they are put in because of that fear. So it was very interesting that how she, showed us that what is beyond that. Like the moment you step out of that box, step out of that comfort zone, how things can change drastically in your life, how you take more control and be more authentic, true to yourself in a way, once you start stepping out of that box.
Yeah. Comfort zone is also a kind of box. So people tend to suffer because it's comfortable.
Hmm.
And the worst part is they start identifying themselves, they create identity around that, where she also explained an example of being the good girl, right? So it's more or less the identity that you've been conditioned, because you're into that environment for very long, into that zone where it feels very comfortable to not really move out of it.
Yeah.
Probably we can call it it's a self-made box that you put yourself.
You caged yourself. I know that a lot of listeners came back to us saying that also the good girl example was something so many people resonated with, and it's something as we dissected the various other topics, we went more deeper into the other topics through the other episodes. I think Amanda's episode was something that was kind of for me defining a lot of things more theoretically, about all the things that we talked about in the later episodes.
It was a good start rooting on where this is all sourcing from and
Yeah.
how it can take different pathways based on different experiences that we might face in different roles or different ages or different environmental responsibilities that we might take depending on that. So it was a good start as the core of the whole theme.
And I think the core was that I want to be accepted, and I also want to be my own person. So that is the real pull. The part where I want to be accepted is what kind of puts us into the box or makes us stay in the box. And the part where we want to become our own selves is what causes us to rebel or break through that and come out and do things that feel more true to our personality.
Mhm. Yeah, when you just mentioned this, I was just seeing a human jumping from one box to another box, which
Mhm.
creates more conflict, right, internally. Should I do that or should I do this? Because doing that will make me feel accepted, and doing this will satisfy my own personal interest, which I like to do.
And I also feel, when again talking about the next episode, that is redefining fatherhood with Aditya Tiwari. I think what also came through for me is that when you're breaking that stereotype, you are also creating a new prototype for people to look up to. Maybe they don't understand it yet, but a way to discover that something can be done differently also. you know um in Aditya's episode, for example, the fact that he actually fought and changed the law. Of course, we all dream about things, but even the smallest obstacles can make us kind of stop in the path. But for him, the obstacle was the system. It was a systemic change he actually brought in, just because he wanted that particular child to come into his life. And at the very young age, he was still in his mid 20s, and he was a single father wanting to adopt. All those things were very inspirational, I find, just to begin that story, um, just following his dream against everything and everybody else.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
I had a different experience for this episode, though I was not in the conversation. When I was listening to the conversation uh, with you and him, as an audience, as a listener, for me, it was a whole roller coaster of emotions on to what extent a person can do unconditionally. That was what stood out for me, and um, it was not for me. The learning was it was not a necessity or need, but a soulful desire to have the kid in his life. I think it just is a very larger purpose than what you can just desire here for this lifetime. That was outstanding for me to witness through the conversation. And he had his own life going on and all the obstacles where he was mentioning how far, to what extent he had to stretch to make the vision of bringing that kid to his life, that was extremely inspiring. it,
Yeah.
it might not just stay with just the adoption, but on what a human being can go to an extent if the person really works for a bigger vision. How much you can fight if you want to attain that bigger vision. Because, like you said, we all want change, but we always expect somebody else to do it and not start with us. But with Aditya's episode, I could see that he was that change. He didn't expect the change to happen externally. He brought in that initiation to have that change, which which I'm assuming there are thousands of them after his case have gracefully followed the similar path. So creating that path where he couldn't see that path, especially changing the laws, is extremely huge. And we can just imagine the amount of dedication and efforts he might have experienced.
And the fact that he's achieved it and now that is in the past,
Mm,
his story becomes even more powerful, in the sense that you know then. So what you were saying, right, we all want change to happen, but do we all want to be change makers? Because becoming a change maker is a tough path. We are always expecting as a society somebody else to come and make changes for us. Oh, the door is closed, so I couldn't go into the next room. But you have to open that door, you have to turn the knob, you have to put in the effort, and definitely you can go across that story. Aditya and Avnish's story brings that, it's just what you act upon, that can change your life ahead.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's easy to talk where somebody is trying to do something, but do you really want that change, and are you really determined to bring that efforts, is something that we have to take.
And I think it's after this episode was recorded in India, we had the movie Sitare Zami Pe also coming out. Avnish is a child with Down syndrome, but some of the things as I was watching this movie, also I could resonate so much with so many things that Aditya is already doing with his child. Where I remember he said that I just follow what Avnish says.
Mm,
The whole Mount Everest trip they made
mm,
is just because they were watching a movie and Avnish asked curiously about what they were doing and they were climbing Mount Everest. And from that to actually, just because he expressed a desire that he wants to do it, Aditya actually prepared him for a year to just make that trip.
mm,
They actually trained and took care of all the things that were necessary for him to do. Medically it would have been impossible, the way Avnish had entered Aditya's life and at the age of 7 to actually have achieved climbing Mount Everest.
mm,
That journey is phenomenal. It is something, like, even at this age, if you ask me to go climb Mount Everest, I would be like, oh, no, no, no. I would give you 100 reasons why I shouldn't do it. But that was very inspirational for a child with special needs and a parent of a child who has special needs, because a lot of times there is lack of acceptance that our children have a certain disability, or they are different from other kids, and we are stuck there. A lot of parents get stuck in that spot.
yeah,
I loved the point that Aditya brought in, that accept it, it's there already. And from there, if you already accepted it, the struggle is finished. Then you just need to figure out how. And now, as I'm talking about this, I can connect this to what Divya said later in her episode. It doesn't matter what your size is, you choose the bike you want. And then it's about learning the techniques. And I can relate it even here,
yeah,
that it doesn't matter the moment you accept it. It's just about learning how to navigate this journey, ahead. That's it. You pick up a different map from what the other people are having, and you can go through this.
Mm.
That was very powerful, I felt.
Yeah, it's a great point because, in that sense, if we look at it on a larger perspective, every person is different. We are not same at all. So, if you consider in that perspective, one thing cannot be followed by everybody else. So, you need to look at it in a different way. So, even if you're in the same house, you're in the same city, things might be very different for you.
Yeah.
So, accepting how it is resonates to every other scenario. And also with Aditya adopting Avnish is also inspirational for the reason that choosing the child, irrespective of the challenges, because he felt that connection with the kid, right? So
Yeah.
that's another stereotype he has broken, according to me, saying that kids are kids, whether they have challenges, they don't. It's just the connection. You feel the connection, you do what your heart says, and be unconditional with
Yeah.
love. And also the Mount Everest part, that's really amazing. But just following the desire of a kid without even having any kind of negations towards it
Yeah.
is something amazing.
And I remember that, when he was talking about this, he said, Avnish wants to go and I am his supporter.
Yeah.
So casually he said it. He wants to go. I'm going to support him. And that was, like you said, very unconditional, And no wonder he actually won the best mother award as a parent, as a dad. And there he's again breaking the stereotypes of gender roles. Uh, how a mother and a father should actually be, and he talked about it in the episode. I think at so many levels, as a parent to a child with special needs, as a young guy who adopted,
Mm,
um, as a person who is breaking gender norms to be there unconditionally for his child,
true.
and then now teaching other parents with neurodivergent or special needs kids to cope and support their children unconditionally. I think he is in so many ways breaking those stereotypes. Like, he's come out of every box anybody could ever put him in.
Yeah, on every other level. What I really took away is, if you know why you're doing what you're doing, you can just cross any barriers. Anything is possible and everything is possible. It might take some time, but you will definitely reach there.
So, if you had to move on to the next episode, a very, very special one for us. A lot of learning from this episode. This was Living Beyond Labels, queer and unapologetic with Harish Iyer. And that episode was full of new learnings for me. I think it's an episode I carry in my heart on a daily basis now, because I want that awareness that has come through that episode to stay with me always, very consciously.
Mm.
I think that is what that episode, uh, that's the impact it had on my mind.
Yeah.
There were so many things I had never thought about, or I never knew how it plays out for a person who is transgender, or a person whose gender identity is different from mine. And that's what we commonly see, how we interact with the world. But to know what are the problems that a transgender person, or what are the problems any person in the LGBTQ community goes through,
Mm.
it was very revealing, informative, very insightful episode, I felt.
Yeah, yeah. Um, like you said, I second that. It was episode of lot of learnings. The major learning for me was how can you be more inclusive? We speak about inclusivity. We have a separate area that we cater to diversity and inclusion in all the companies or in the major placeholders in the society at this point. But are we really inclusive? Was shown by him when he said, how do you introduce yourself? When he said, we just mirror it. It's not just the case of Harish, it's also how we do conversations with other people in our life.
Yeah.
We don't keep saying everything to everybody. We just mirror them. Whatever they share, however they share, we just reciprocate.
Yeah.
And if you have to go beyond what you can just mirror, is how the inclusivity comes in,
Hmm.
is my major learning. And that was the moment I've changed, I think, my pronouns. And that was the whole theme that we had, the intention that we had when we started our
Yes.
podcast. Even if one thing we can take away, and if every other listener can take away, that's huge change. That it might look smaller with few people doing it,
Yeah.
but it's just a good change if they can take this forward and pass it on to people. And seeing the difficulties Harish has faced is something that you cannot even imagine.
So many things we never think about. Like I remember he told this example of going to use the washroom. He being a transgender, depending on what clothes he wears, it becomes easy or difficult for him to just just go use a washroom. It's something we don't think about, right? Like it doesn't cross our mind. But this episode, I think, also brought in that factor of empathy for us to develop that,
Mm,
to know really what are the problems. I think this is also an episode where a lot of people came to me and told, oh wow, I learned so much from this episode, which I always had a thought about, but
mm,
I didn't know whom to ask, or I didn't know if I would offend somebody if I asked someone from the LGBTQ community. But I think this episode had the power to do that, to change perspectives, to create empathy, and like you said, bring that inclusivity to conversations. And so powerfully he said that three words, right? Like
mm,
ha hu to. So what if I am, you know uh, and that shatters, I think, all fears that we were talking about, why people stay inside boxes. In LGBTQ communities, they say staying in the closet, right? Why do they stay in the closet? Because of the fear. And if you're able to make a world where everybody can openly be themselves, it would be so beautiful. And that is something I was able to see through that episode. And he very confidently was sharing his stories, right? There was no hesitation. He had already overcome all those fears.
mm,
He was out in the open, standing, facing himself, just the way he is, just being true to himself. And then he brought that out also. Like there are some days he just doesn't want to be noticed. He just wants to be invisible. And I can understand, like on a daily basis, if there is so much attention on you. When he was talking about it, I could understand, I could very much empathize with that factor, that there are days I'm feeling down. I don't want so much attention.
yeah.
I wish nobody was looking at me. I was just as normal as everybody else. And the definition of normal also, he talked about how we define what is normal. Uh, but what is common is normal, but doesn't have to be. Beautiful points brought in from him about breaking through those labels and coming out and completely embracing yourself for whoever you are,
Mm.
without any judgment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that pressure is very real to act in certain way. Even the normal, what is normal to me is normal, not normal to you. So the definition is itself very different for each individual.
And I think in the next episode that we had, with Arkadev, where we talked about being gracefully masculine. He also brought in certain elements of what Harish was talking about, that men in dance are considered to be, too feminine. And if there are people from the LGBTQ community who are part of dance, they are again becoming more targets to ridicule and, joke making and everything. Like, they are unnecessarily brought into attention, not for their talent, not for their skill of dancing, but for other things, and how it affects people's mental health. I found somewhere both those episodes had certain places where they were merging together, you know.
Yeah, that's very true. I could see the connection as well. And like you rightly pointed out, there might be men love dancing, and it's not wrong. So, how it can affect people with not really following what they like? It's again a pressure from the society or from people around, maybe the family or the friends, on not supporting what they like.
Hmm.
Maybe it's just a hobby, like how Dr. Arkadev, he just started it out of curiosity because he heard
Yeah.
some a talk, and that's how the interest began. If he had boxed, probably he wouldn't have become a dance teacher now.
And that he also talked about how taking up dance as a profession for men can be such a taboo in our society because it's not seen as something mainstream. You're not a doctor, you're not an engineer, you're not of doing something of reputation, in a way, that society has again told that these are the professions where you will be looked up for, which would bring you more prestige. But a man in a dancing profession, and that's a very good question he asked, that would a woman want to marry a man who is professionally in a dance space? And these are questions we want to ask. Are we kind of accepting men also for who they are or what they do?
Yeah, also it comes with a perception that only men have to work and
Mhm.
they cannot follow their passion. I
Yeah.
keep hearing it a lot, saying men has to be the bread earner
Yeah.
always. It can be or it cannot be also. Or you cannot just force a female to just stay at home also.
I mean, it's actually a fallout for the men from the patriarchal system itself. Patriarchy is something we tend to think that is unfair to women, but it is a lot unfair to men too. uh, it is a patriarchal belief that men have to be the breadwinners for the family, or they should be the one who earn more. So these kind of things, I think, are outdated now. It's time we embrace the change that the world is seeing. Like you said, women want to work and are working, and sometimes maybe earning more than a man, and that's okay.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, again it comes with a choice. If they
yeah.
want to, good.
Or it's a partnership, right? Like, it's a choice, yeah, but it's also a partnership. Like, I think when you're married or in a relationship, it's about what as a couple they decide,
Yeah.
who brings in the money or who takes care of the children. I think in every couple, it should be the couple who decides, whereas it should not be an unsaid rule that by default the man is going to bring more money. He should have these jobs, and the woman can pursue certain other things or stay at home, but not be very ambitious with regard to their career. So these are labels that we have already set, and then when there is no outside support, uh, to break through these labels becomes difficult, like what he was talking about in terms of dance also, right? And this is not just in India, it is something that we have seen across cultures. Arkadev's episode also brought in that aspect, especially with regard to art. art which is, if you go into ancient culture, you will see that it was not gender specific. It's more of a modern society norm, that art is only for women, or it's just a hobby, you can't really pursue it as something serious. These are things that have come in.
Yeah, that's very true because so again, if you look at our ancient culture, our traditions, Nataraja is considered the dance god who's a male. And contrarily of what people see female right now, the divine goddess Shakti is always the female,
Yeah.
not the male. But now it's all opposite. So the synth is always male, and the dance done by female. And also the example of Nala Maharaj, who's a chef in the ancient space, who's a male who cooks. And right now it's a stereotype, or it's a great thing. If a male cooks, it's like, oh, you know cooking. It's not normal at all. Why is it not normal?
So it's interesting there with cooking also, right? Like when a woman cooks, it's for the family. You will never see a famous chef. A very few. There are. I won't say it's not there, but the more famous ones are the male chefs
Mm. Yeah.
because they bring in money as they are cooking. But at homes, we don't really accept the fact that if only a husband is cooking in the house
Mhm. Yeah,
and the woman is not at all doing it, then that is again, accepted in the society.
yeah, we don't pause and reflect, right? See, now even if you go to restaurants, if you go to the internal kitchen of a restaurant, you see all male cooks.
Yes.
You don't see many female cook. You see only female cooks at home, not in the restaurants. It's definitely not because men cannot cook or they don't know to cook.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next episode, which was a very power packed episode, Brinda Dige on the color of bias. I really love the way she articulates herself and the beautiful points she brought in through that. A lot of storytelling in her episode. I found that very interesting, and it is something that stays with you. And, she really brings that out when she talked about colorism, especially in India, and how it kind of interlaces also with casteism and gender roles. It was beautiful how she brought in so many different areas of stereotypes, that we find in the society.
Yeah, I could relate on the cosmetic part where she explained about her friend responding to her color and how it could change. Beauty was not always glorified in the sense where you mask your own authentic self and portray yourself as something else. And I keep seeing the memes with the makeup on, you see the person in a certain way where the person looks different, and when the makeup is taken off, the person looks very different. For example, if the person is dark, putting on makeup makes the person look fairer. Where you're masking that real authentic color to something which is not true. It's not the authentic.
So I think, Yash, when you're saying this, what comes to me is also, it is also kind of reiterating that you will look good only if you are a certain color,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're kind of reinforcing that idea. And I thought about this even after we recorded this episode. Any mainstream um m- movies, and I'm not just talking about Indian movies, right? Even if you look at Hollywood movies, I think Hollywood and Bollywood are two major movie industries in the world. And if you look at it, the percentage
Mm,
of fair people on screen, especially women, the difference is so much.
mm.
And that kind of shows we want to see only fair faces as beautiful faces. As an actress, as a special woman, on screen.
Yeah. And also with the uh, perception and the standard beauty of how thin they should be, how tall they should be, you can use all of them if you want to enhance or feel good about it. Like feeling good where you wear nice clothes. That's a different thing. But you put on makeup to hide yourself, that's another perception. You can enhance your beauty by doing good
Yeah,
things that can make you feel good, but
yeah.
completely changing how you want to look, that can also include the surgeries,
Hmm.
the cosmetic surgeries people are into, that I have to be this way. And it entirely changes your whole look.
Yeah.
There are cases where people have gone and lost the goodness and the beauty that they had originally also.
Very young people getting into all of this, being made to feel that they're not good enough. And that again relates to what Amanda was saying, you play on that feeling of you're not good enough, so to fit in you have to do all this, then everybody's going to be happy, and then you will be accepted. So again, you are breaking away from or going away from being your authentic self and trying to mold yourself into something that other people will probably like.
Mm,
I think it's very important from a young age for people to kind of know that they are good just the way they are. And I really appreciate that in, for example, Malayalam film industry. I've seen this very much, it has never really mattered how much weight as an actress you put on, or how your hair is, how straight or curly your hair is, or how frizzy your hair is,
yeah.
in real life, honestly, a lot of us have frizzy hair, and it's okay, we still look beautiful with that frizzy hair. Now we have kind of made this that only a straightened hair is what makes you look good. So many things, and I think beautifully the Malayalam film industry is kind of broken that.
Mm,
And I really enjoy that, because then you're watching a movie for their art, for their craft that they're bringing to the movie, and not for anything else.
mm,
So I think we need more examples like that. And uh, I think Brinda kind of is such a personification of that person, who defies and calls out patriarchy in a very good way, colorism in a very good way, very strong way. She's not afraid to call it out, and we need more people to call out these things.
yeah. When you mentioned about the industry, especially the film industry, I like Sai Pallavi, who just goes with the very natural skin that she has, or with a very minimal makeup if the role asks for it, which is fine, I guess. I used to watch a lot of her interviews where she mentions why she chose the way she is right now. During my own skin journey with a lot of acne and how people point that out, she was an inspiration. If she, with a lot of people being watched in a very public forefront, if she can do that, anybody can do that. And that
Yeah,
gave a lot of confidence to own my skin also the way it is, and take care of things that feels not so good, just not the skin. When, like you said, the hair or your body or anything, keep it in the health perspective and not with the box or the labels that will define that word. So for a heroine to be a heroine, you, the general perception might be, oh, you have to look this way to get
yeah,
into the roles. It can also it can come in with the age and the gender also. The normal question, if we ask who's the CEO of this company, everybody will say, oh, it might be a male with so and so age and the way he looks. But can it not be a female, probably a younger one? It can be. I had a unique experience after we recorded that episode. I had to travel in auto, and the auto driver was a female.
Okay.
So, which is not common in my city. And my initial instinct was, oh wow, it's a female driver. But later, when I reflected on it, my response shouldn't be, oh wow. Do I do that for a male driver as well? No.
I think it's a very natural response, right? Like, Yash, I think it starts with that response because we haven't seen. It's like, any other place. If you see, let's say, a female CEO, right? Your instinctive reaction is of pride as a woman. Even as a man, it can be of surprise, oh, I didn't expect this, because your brain works in a certain way. And again, I want to bring something that Amanda was saying, that you have been exposed to something again and again and
Mm,
again to make it look that this is the only reality.
mm,
When we see something different, there is a little pause that happens. Again, Divya was talking about this, that when women ride, it is empowerment. When women ride motorbikes, it's an empowerment. She wishes that women rode bikes just for fun, but it's not, right? Like,
yeah.
so very normal. I feel your reaction is very normal.
But what I wanted to convey is when a male driver is in the driver's seat, it's not, oh, wow, that's not the response because it's common. But when it's a female doing it, it was through the lens of a woman is doing it.
This is also becoming true because we haven't seen it enough.
Mm,
Once we see it enough, like we also talked about this in Divya's episode, that now we have seen enough female drivers driving cars,
yeah.
that now a female driving a car is not such a big deal. It was before. Or a female running a marathon, maybe 60 years back, it would have been, what, why would she run among men, it would have shocked so many people. But now it's very normal. So you need that shock first, is what I understand, and then it becomes that normal thing, like even with the bike thing that we were talking, it is right now something that's rare, and we feel, wow, women in racing. When we were talking to Divya, in her episode Beyond the Track, this was a very beautiful point that came in, right? Like, we were also feeling, wow, women in a bike racing,
Mm,
not just riding on the road,
yeah.
right? It's not something we imagined. And it's, the wow is good in a sense, because I think it makes us aspire
Mm,
differently.
mm. No, that was definitely the proud moment that I could think and imagine the difficulties that she might have faced to come to that space. But it was just the reflection about how stereotypically I looked from that lens. How typically we are conditioned in a sense that the natural response is that it's not normal.
Yeah.
So that realization of how the stereotypical lens I looked at it was an instant realization for me. And I think
Mhm.
that followed with our Divya's episode on how it can be so different if it is not a stereotype at all for you to break.
Yeah, and a very important point there, um you know to reach that point, you need a lot of support.
Mm,
And that is something I also feel that was coming through all the episodes for us, but magnified in Divya's episode, because Divya entered a stereotypical male dominated space with a lot of support and encouragement and initiation by her parents, who introduced her into that world, right? And that story was different also because it came with a lot of support, but it highlighted something that all the others were talking about, that when somebody stands up for you, the journey becomes easier.
yeah, yeah.
So for Aditya, if let's say initially, um, maybe his parents or maybe some friends came and said, "Oh, what you're doing is wonderful. I'm going to help you in any way." Not that the journey is not difficult, but it would have become a little more easier for him to go through that path than go through it fighting every person he knows
Mm.
and then fighting the system, right? Or for Harish, for that matter, if he had that support right from the beginning, what he is identifying with when he is in his 40s, he would have probably identified it when he was in 20s and been seen himself as a whole being right from the beginning.
Mm.
So the support becomes a very important factor, which was brought beautifully by Divya's episode, I feel.
Yeah, and also it portrays how the internal noise can be so minimal.
Mm.
So if somebody wants to pursue art, they might not think thousand times, which can be a lot easier. Like you pointed out in the episode on the preparation section and the actual challenge. The actual
Yeah.
can be with a lot of things which you cannot do anything about. It's not in your control. But the preparation part, the beforehand situations, you can break all of those. You need not really face all of those things
Yeah.
at all. So that you can use all the resources that you have to face the real challenge and not the challenge to get on to the challenge.
And I can say it in my own experience, so I have started driving a car only 3 years back, and I drive even far off places. Mauritius is small, but I do drive a lot. But the fact that I have not driven any other car other than my own car, okay, so sometimes it does happen that we have a rental car or a friend's car, and by default my husband would drive that car
Mm.
if it's with us. It would not be me, because what if I accidentally hit it somewhere? But that accidentally hitting can happen by him too,
Yeah.
right? But there is this thing that I have internalized,
Mm.
that I'm not good enough. Even though I'm driving from last 3 years and I've been a safe driver, I am kind of trying to tell myself, no, 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 somebody else's car, I shouldn't be touching it. If it's my car, it's okay.
Mm.
And Divya's um, conversation with her kind of inspired me also to change that,
Mm.
because also as a coach, I think I have kind of coached a few women who have moved from some other country back to India. And India, as we all know, is known for being difficult for drivers, right? If you have driven in India, you can drive anywhere in the world, is what you usually hear.
Yeah.
And I've coached a few women who have come and said that we used to drive in the US or in the Europe, but we are very afraid to drive. So it's been 5 years since I came back to India, but I don't drive.
Mm.
And this is such a common thing that now I'm moving back to India. I think Divya's episode has inspired me to not fall into that trap, that typical trap of telling myself, no, I can't do it. I am always going to remember what she said, that it does not matter. You are small, you're very thin, your height is less. That if you love a particular bike, there are techniques to ride it. I think I'm going to take it to my car driving also and say, doesn't matter if it's a big car, if it's a crowded road, it's a long road, it's a long drive,
Mm.
that if I have driven a car before, I can do it. It's just about learning. It's just about maybe a week's time that I get used to this new thing I want to explore. And that's it. So I think that shift has happened from hearing her story and her viewpoint with regard to bikes. And I think it applies to all the things that we do, gender based or age based, all those things that we can break through and say, no, it's just a skill. I can just learn it, practice a few times, and it's a different story then.
Yeah, and like you were mentioning about the accident that can happen accidentally, can happen also with your car. It's just not the rental car, which also connects to me with how Divya said that you don't want to get hurt. You don't wish to fall from bike wantingly. It just happens. You just have to accept that there are certain things that will happen which is out of your control, and you have to be cautious enough to take the precautions beforehand, the safety measures. And if that still happens, you're protected from all that.
Yeah,
Rather than fear, you need to be more equipped
true.
on what you can from your end, and what is beyond your control is beyond your control.
Going to Shrijita's episode, one of the best episodes I think we have recorded as an experience. Meeting Shrijita, learning from her, it was an experience in itself. I think I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, it was very different from all the episodes so far, from all the seasons that we have done. And it was difficult technically, and with the communication aspect also, because we don't know sign language and she cannot hear, and it was a different ball game altogether for us also. I think we also broke stereotype that we had to
Absolutely.
do this a certain way, and we had to change the platforms, a lot of technical challenges which also broke the stereotype. For me, it is one of the special episodes alongside all the other episodes, because being in coaching profession, we are always told that listen what you cannot see or hear what the other person is saying. And this felt so very close and accurate to that particular statement for me, on what you can really hear, or you can truly listen when you can't listen through words or the voice. There are other languages also, with just not words or the typical languages that we have. So it redefined the word or the definition of language to me altogether. So it's just the way of communicating. And major learning for me is I always love to learn languages to an extent where I can at least have a basic level of conversation in the native languages, because India is at least full of diverse languages, that every state that you travel to is a different language. So uh, learning a language was always a passion of mine, and now sign language is added to that, and I've been learning sign language after Shijita's episodes. I've learned few words thanks to her on showcasing that importance. I could relate that, because I speak couple of languages. Being a multilingual, it's not just the English that makes you feel heard. Whenever I find somebody who just speaks to the native language, you feel so heard unknowingly, even if the topic doesn't connect. It's just the language that, oh, this is from the place that we are from. And I could relate that. If that is how that feels for us, it's how similar to them also. If they are able to see us speak this language of signs, probably they'll feel the same on how we feel with our own native languages. And that
Yeah.
felt so connected to me that I've started learning the new language of signs.
And I think thank you for sure. We did learn the same day from her. I think just her courage, the way she presents herself, such a happy go lucky character, she is a lot of energy that she brought into the whole recording. And thanks to Rishita also for being with us when we weren't understanding, translating things for us. But I think that episode brought in the importance of inclusivity. Just because something we do not understand, we don't have to avoid it. There are ways, the importance of just slowing down, when she was also talking about uh, at workplaces, lip reading is such an important thing. Just slow down, just say it a bit more slowly, so that she can catch the words. I think it was a very essential topic to bring in the breaking stereotypes theme, because it talked about how people can be different, not just very visibly, but there are silent ways in which people can be different,
Yeah.
and just slowing down to notice it, you know oh, okay, this is not what I do every day, but how can I make this person also be included in what I'm doing?
Mm.
is something each of us can pause and reflect on. And that is something that very importantly came through that episode, you know,
Mm,
which we can also put to all, if you look at it, we can put it across all the episodes.
mm,
It would resonate the same way, Harish's episode. Inclusivity was definitely something that we needed to pause and reflect on. So I think that episode brought a lot of thought into how we can make every space accessible to all kinds of people.
yeah, yeah. And inclusivity is just not with the outer world, it's also from the family. On how Rishita was saying, how Shrijita is not treated as a special one. She's special because she's younger, but not special because of her needs. And I could see only empathy and love there.
Yeah.
Nowhere in the conversation, I'm sure that's how she has been brought from her childhood, also. That it is always seen as one among them and not as a different one, though the
Yeah.
requirements are very different. The value that it was showcasing was all empathy and unconditional love. And
Yeah.
nowhere it was about sympathy that, oh, she cannot hear. She had to be fulfilled with different needs, extra things, extra efforts. Nowhere in the conversation. I think that's what we have to do with every other person, not just people with special needs. Because every person's need is very different.
Yash, I want to ask you here, like, now that we have individually also talked about each of the episodes,
Mm,
what is one thing that you find you are taking away from this season,
mm.
that stood out for you?
For me, all I can see from all the episodes as one takeaway, as a bigger umbrella for the whole season, is treat people as humans, not labels, not gender, not color. Because even if you dissect those labels, every other person under the color or every other person under one gender need not have the same experience. So, my takeaway is see them as humans, not with the lens of color or with the lens of age or with the lens of gender. See the person as they are and not really paint your perceptions. Of course, we are humans, we are with biases, we are with lenses. We are trying to unlearn them and relearn things that can makes us more human. But while
Yeah.
we're doing that, we can have that conscious choice of choosing to see them as humans first and see from their perspective and not from the perspective where you're standing on the other side.
Yeah.
I think that makes the whole situation easier for the person who's experiencing, and also it filters out the noise that we might assume from being on the other perspective, other point of view. So we are just creating that stories and scenarios about a person which might not be true or anywhere nearer to the truth. So I'm taking away seeing people as humans, irrespective of
Wonderful.
all the labels and all the boxes that we have put people into.
And that's so much core to our podcast, to see everyone as connected and as people. um, I think for me, what stood out was that what we need to kind of become more and more is fluid, flowing from one space to another rather than being in one particular place all the time, to keep reflecting, are we now boxing ourselves, because anything we do too much and very rigidly keep doing again becomes a new box.
Mm,
So to be fluid in that sense, to be able to flow from one uh, type of being to another one, and accepting everybody around us in the same way. um, and the fact that through all these stories, support came as such an important factor.
Mm,
uh, can we pause and look at where are we not being supportive to people around us?
mm,
Can we pause and reflect and try to learn ways in which we can support people, uh, not let our fears be projected onto people, but our encouragement
mm,
be projected onto people. So for me, from all these stories that we had in this season, I would take that consciously be fluid.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Be more adaptable to what we are faced with. And
Yeah.
it differs with our own choices also, right? What we choose now might not be the choice what we make later, depending on the circumstances we are in. And how can you just be fixated to one thing when it's you with two different choices?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think even our visualization episode is one way that our listeners can kind of stop, take a pause,
Mm,
reflect on what are the different kinds of reflective questions that we have posed through the episodes. Look at their own lives and lives around them,
mm,
to kind of understand, become more aware where they are kind of putting labels in their own lives or in other people's lives, and slowly dissolve them. you
mm.
know um, and slowing down is definitely a way to understand the world around us better.
It's a beautiful way to recondition yourself, be more conscious of what you're choosing in the moment.
Yeah. And that wraps up Breaking Stereotypes for us, not just a season but a movement of voices, courage, and connection.
Yeah. We set out to challenge the boxes society has put us in. And along the way, we have discovered just how so powerful it is just to simply listen and be there as hosts for the stories and the conversations, and just see beyond labels and meet each other in our own humanity.
Yeah, the shared humanity, right? That is what you also spoke about as we were ending the episode. If this season has sparked a shift in you, even in the smallest way, thank you for letting these stories into your heart. That's how change begins. Uh, we would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, favorite moments, and suggestions with us. What resonated most with you in this season? We'll be taking a short break, but we'll be back in 3 weeks with a season 3 on a very relevant topic in today's ever changing world. Get ready for some very interesting discussions. Until then, this is Yash and Rosh signing off. Stay connected, stay curious.